So the software itself is called, let me see if I remember it, CSRQ, SM. So CSRQ are letters that if you, when you dig into the material, you realize the class C represents the common people, like 99% of the population. Class R considered restricted, or people that are a danger or deemed a danger to society or the stability of the order of society. Q being the people who are quarantined because they're just absolutely need to be locked down. And S, which they've called the sovereign class. And the sovereign class are people that are free to do, they're not bound by the restriction of the universal basic income. They can make as much as they want. They don't have to worry about any travel restrictions. There's a whole list of things that they're not subject to. And what they saw is that there's already people in the S class that are actively involved in moving funds into this new account. Whether personally or through their agents, which means that they're aware of it, and which means that there's going to be definitely, and these people are, in general, they're extremely wealthy. They are obviously they're the politicians. They are artists, powerful and like, you know, big name artists. And essentially the people that are in this represent kind of another class, which they're calling the sovereign class. So leaving the rest of us on the outside. And yes, you know, the idea that you will have money in your account put there, but, you know, the idea, because it's digital, it's programmable money. And programmable money is different than just regular money. Right now, when you have cash in your pocket or even money in your bank account, you can go anywhere you want and you can spend that any which way you want to at your own risk, you know, on your own, whatever, for your own benefit or for your own demise, you know, depending on what you're buying. But with programmable money, you're only going to be able to buy things you're authorized to buy. And that's going to be specific to you personally, right?
It's like food stamps, but very much more specific to you.
Yeah, exactly. They're talking about rating people on a scale of 1 to 1,000. That means, and they're talking about feeding people into the media system that are going to be, you know, pitching the idea of social credit as something cool, you know, so they're going to be comparing social credit scores, right? And so pretty soon in society, if they have their way, people are going to be, you know, out there like, oh, he's an 800, you know, oh, she's only a 400, right? I mean, you can already see it, yeah. You know, totally, right? So, but welcome it. They're going to welcome it, John. They're going to be, because it's going to be brought in under a crisis situation, because they would never adopt it under a normal situation. Everyone it has too high of a living standard and has too much control, a little bit of freedom left, right? But when this catastrophe happens, they're going to be scrambling. And so people will accept things that gives them, it'll be sold to us, I believe, under the guise of, well, listen, we have a contingency plan. We were thinking that this could happen. And so we're going to switch everyone over to this now just temporarily, just to get kind of under control of the situation. You know, just like when FEMA was brought in, you remember when FEMA was, you know, the whole Homeland Security system was brought into place, and they used the whole coming down of the World Trade Center to basically justify putting the country into kind of a state of martial law, which gave them the right to impose these by coincidence, you know, worked out plans. I mean, okay, by coincidence, you could argue that it's a government's job to have contingency plans, right?
Yes, but do you have a bill of multiple thousand pages called the Patriot Act just ready in your drawer, completely, you know, written out? You don't. Well, the funny thing about those plans you often find is that the condition that is like the simulated auspices under which they are launched, always by coincidence happens to be exactly the event that then actually happened in the real world. I mean, what are the odds of that, right? Show you something else. There's this guy, this is an article by a guy called Tim Foyle, and it's about, we were talking about conspiracies, right? And, you know, conspiracies, basically, to call a conspiracy out in the open is essentially, it's not a theory, you're analyzing a conspiracy. Conspiracies are a real thing. But listen to this, what he writes here about conspiracy, the psychology of a conspiracy denier. The infant child places an innate trust in those it finds itself with. A trust which is, for the most part, essentially justified. The infant could not survive otherwise, right? Logical when you're a baby, right? What occurs when there is a childish need within us
which has never evolved beyond its original survival function of trusting those in our environment who are simply the most powerful, the most present and active. Trust is placed in the biggest, loudest, most present and undeniable force around because instinct decrees that survival depends on it. In my view, this is how conspiracy deniers are able to cling to and aggressively defend utterly illogical fantasies that somehow, when bad things happen, the governmental equivalent of mommy and daddy are diligently working out how best to ensure that their little precious citizens will be comfortable, happy, and safe after. Their sense of well-being, of security, of comfort, even their sense of a future at all are completely unconsciously invested in this fantasy. This is the core comforting illusion at the root of the conspiracy denier's mindset, the decrepit foundation upon which they build a towering castle of justification from which to pompously jeer at, mock, and attack those who see otherwise. The conspiracy denier will attack anyone who threatens their infantile worldview because cognitive dissonance is rattling in their unevolved brain. My proof for the truth of this assertion is that they won't even understand this argument except to be insulted at being called unevolved and underdeveloped. Brilliant analysis of it right there. And that's the other form of mind control that's going on. See, we have to realize that we've been gaslighted for the better part of the last century. Since, I believe since at least 100 years, if not even further back. But, you could argue that the last 100 years have been the amount of time that that the modern methods of mind control have been perfected, starting with print, radio, photography, photos, and later, of course, internet and all the things that have evolved since. But it's through this mechanism of getting people, basically they've infiltrated our society with people that are in this Borg mentality, this very communist ideology. And the communist ideology, again, is reflected in this idea of a uniform basic income, because everyone's going to be equal then, right? And one of the things that Gideon says is that people they'll be upset at first, but when they realize everybody else is in the same boat, they'll kind of go, oh, well, everyone's the same, right? Even our stars, right? Even our stars are in the same boat. But what they don't realize, and what I guess Gideon is bringing out, is that, no, it's not the case. The stars are actually not in the same boat. In fact, even people that are in the alternative media, so-called, they've actually found them in the system, and these people are very well of the class system, and they are already capitalizing on it. In fact, they're capitalizing to the tune of cashing in, trading in their stock, so to speak, of $1 to 43 equivalent digital currency dollars right now. And we don't have that advantage, right? I mean, let's look at some of them, right?
Let's look at them. And also, before we put this up on a screen, I want to make one thing abundantly clear.
Caveat.
This is coming from one source right now. This is the case. When you break a story, when you break new information, you don't have the advantage of having multiple information points. What we have is circumstantial or anecdotal evidence of people that have already come out and talked about the social credit system that are in powerful positions. Frank has covered this. But I want to make one thing clear. We cannot 100% accurately interpret what these parameters really mean at this point when we're looking at them, but we will give our best guess, if you will.
Right. Okay. Exactly. Well said. I 100% endorse your ideologies. And here we go. These are today, this is breaking news, people. We are the first people on the planet on the outside that are getting this information in a visual form as well as in an audio form. And what we're seeing here are certain people that are considered alternative media icons.
Or weird politicians.
Or weird politicians, exactly. And it looks evident from the information. These are screenshots, and as you can see, if you look at the bottom, it says carbon score, right? We're going to have a carbon score. We're going to have a vaccine status, of course. Right?
We already have that. I mean,
we already do. But I mean, what's interesting is that the tier system of classes, C, Q, R, and S, they're going to have different vaccine status requirements. Like the C people will be required to have 3 shots. The our people are going to be requiring 5 shots because I mean they're completely uncontrollable, and you know, so this is they've actually broken it down quite meticulously. Then they've also got account limits, account types, etc. But what's interesting here, I mean, and I got to say, if you're a Paul Joseph Watson or a Tucker Carlson and you see this, maybe somebody sends you this and goes, "Hey, these 2 freaks, John and Frank, are talking about you guys." You got to have the following reaction. Either the hair is going to be standing up on the back of your neck because somebody has broken information about you, which is untrue, which means you get to challenge it in the public, you know, which means you're going to have to deny that you're part of it. And the other
set up, Paul Joseph Watson, if you've been set up here,
you've been set up, now's your time to come out. But the other thing reaction is, oh my God, they're onto it. Yeah, which means that all of a sudden, you know, it leaves them with only one choice, Tucker and Paul and all these people. You have to basically renounce the system. And the best thing you can do is come clean and say, okay, it's true, I was aware of it. Because it's going to come out. If you deny it, I mean, it'll come out. And eventually it'll come out. Maybe not right away, but
Ben Shapiro, same thing.
It'll come out. So, and we don't want to do any of you guys a disservice here, but we also want to, if this is true, you know, you should be talking about this right now. It's like you should be why are we breaking the story? Why are you not breaking the story if you've already collected credits? Right? This is what it's about.
What this shows is, and let's pick whoever. Let's pick Gavin Newsom. Okay, nobody likes him. That's easy. Let's pick Gavin Newsom, the highly unpopular and unscrupulous governor of California. If we look at his thing, what do you see is his name? What you see is his biometric ID. So this is something that we now know when you have a passport, you know that's kind of there, but it's not out in the open. You don't see a number on your, but this is going to be, then you see the assets, right? And this is what Frank talked about. So when you see numbers in there, it means that currently fiat assets, or maybe crypto, I don't know, but current assets in the current system, like dollars or whatever currency, have been transferred into the new currency assets and are already in there. And if they can do it, that already means they are unrestricted, because in this new system, regular people won't be able to do it like that. You won't be able to just go out and earn money anymore and keep it in there. Maybe you'll have some leeway but the general idea is you'll get your digital food stamps, your digital rent stamps, and your digital essential stamps. And if you're really good, like in China, every now and then you might be able to take a vacation that's 20 miles from your current destination. You get stamps for that too. And then it also shows other, like they don't have restrictions. And basically, if you go back, if you remember Aaron Russo, the filmmaker Aaron Russo, who broke he broke this story 20 years ago.
Did he die of cancer or something?
Yeah, he died. And that's I think why he came out, and he talked about his relationship with Rockefeller. Yeah. With Nick Rockefeller, where he described this system, of course, in the terms of his day and age, that he didn't have the language yet. He didn't have cryptocurrency language.
Right.
But he basically said everyone's going to be chipped, but you're going to have the chip that's going to basically say you're cool, you're exempt, you can do whatever you want. This is exactly the social credit system that we're seeing here. And he said it, I don't know now, almost 20 years ago, I believe. It was 2002, 3, I don't know, those years.
They were describing it as 3 to 5 days. All the transactions that are digital will be converted and streamlined into the new system, and then cash will be made illegal. So you'll have a chance to go take your cash in, just like when they confiscated gold, in America. You'll have a chance to take your gold in and get cash for it. And if you don't do it by a certain time, then you're lost out. So people will, and they will make it
a crime by owning gold.
It'll be criminal to own cash.
What can we do? Because here's the thing. I mean, we've already stated publicly what is the hill that we're willing to die on, with pride, with honor, if necessary, but we are willing, right? There's not a snowball's chance in hell that we're just going to accept this and not do everything in our power to promote real sovereignty and freedom for mankind in all ways, shapes, and forms. So that being said, what gives me hope is Aaron Russo came out in 2002, 2003. Other people came out. The mainstream media came out right after 9/11, talking about chips, talking about chipping children, talking about all that. and the public wouldn't have it. Even though it was an emergency mass trauma situation, they couldn't. I think they already had the technology to do it, but they could not do it. They didn't have enough clout with the public. So it took them a whole nother 20 years to get to this point. And even though we had another mass trauma event over the past years, I still believe they're fighting an uphill battle because the people will not have it. That is truly what I'm hoping for. We see countries now every day that have mass events of regular people that are not having it. I mean, Sri Lankans are taking a bath in the president's pool right now. Of course, let's be careful here. This could be very well a false flag operation. You know, I'm not saying this, but what I'm saying is the people are standing up. They're standing their ground more and more and more. This evidence that we're presenting is to show you this is real, this is true, and this is what they will do unless we do something about it. This is what, I mean, this,
yes.
You know, Juncker came out many years ago. He said, how we operate is, and he was the president of the European Commission, which is, by the way, it's all appointed. You don't get these are appointed positions. You know, they don't get elected, the commission itself. But he came out and said, what we do is we present something to the public that might be very controversial or very upsetting. And then we watch the reaction. If there's no big reaction, we move forward full steam ahead until it's irreversible. That's what they did with the European Union. That's what they did with all the other stuff. We have to stand up now while it still is reversible, while it still is preventable. Frank.
Clearly.
What says you?
I think that, but the nice thing is, and this ties right back to the very first conversation we had, why we even brought the information out, because we realized that the way to stop these atrocities is to talk about them with as many people as possible. And if all of us suddenly, like if you're watching this and you're getting motivated to do something, well, think about what you could do. It might be as simple as going down to talk to your mayor and saying, hey, listen, check this out. This has been planned. Have you heard about this? And, just go to your governor, go to your senators and say, yeah, we've seen that your name is on here. Do you want to talk about this? What is this? They want to give us an explanation, because essentially this is going to come out, and you're either, going to come clean with it now, or you're going to deny it. And you're going to, because if it does come out, then we know that you lied about it. And if you don't know about it, now we're informing you about it. So it's your obligation as our paid employee, politician in the real world, of course, to go out there and actually put this out there on the public forum for discussion, because it's all about, if the public is informed, isn't that what democracy is supposed to be about? It's like, it's supposed to be making, if the public votes on something, it only really works in favor of the public if the public knows what they're voting for. They understand the issue. It's like we need to be putting this information out and talking about it amongst ourselves now, not when it comes down the road, like you were saying, John, but when it's actually, on the table, and if they're talking between 6 months and 2 years, we don't have a lot of time. So it is time to kind of go out there and talk to the people who are our public representatives and put it on the table to them and say, okay, like, power of the people is to actually educate ourselves about this. We know that artificial intelligence is going to be a big topic because it's going to take jobs away. Do you have a contingency plan? We know that, this seems to all fit in place. We know that we're hearing about social credit systems in China and in Israel, and Merkel in Germany's been talking about how she admires the social credit system of the Chinese. And
here, if this is implemented, what's going to happen is not, oh, he's class C and she's class Q. No, what's going to happen is, if you associate with someone from that class, if you communicate with them, if you live with them in the same household, your own status will be downgraded. Your own abilities will be downgraded. So people will say, shit, I can't buy more of this month, although I need it because I'm associated with you. Well, I'm going to have to cut off all ties. This is the ultimate division. This is the Hunger Games. This is divide and conquer. Yeah. This is the gladiators, the Roman Empire system put in place, cemented in place. People, please don't take this any other way than completely serious. Now, this is the necessity moment. today, now. First of all, spread this information, talk to people about it, research and educate yourself. But now, what is the vision? How do we actually, and it comes down to full 100% personal responsibility, self-reliance, community, strong community that will, a bond that's unbreakable, a bond that is forged with such conviction that it's unbreakable, that you will never allow it to be broken down by something as diabolical and as anti-human as this.
What does your future world look like? Right? We know Hollywood's giving us their versions. It tends to be very dark and apocalyptic. Have you ever seen a film showing 2040 that isn't all dark and gray with clouds everywhere and raining all the time, right? We have to see our world. It has to be what we want. And maybe that's lush gardens everywhere, permaculture, free energy devices, no more toxic smog anywhere. Just these are the kinds of things that we have to set in motion by thinking that they could be real, and then we will implant those ideas into the ether, if you want to call it that, and then it'll take root. And if it takes root, it'll begin to weaken the timeline, because this is really about the timelines. We're on this timeline to hell. And if we don't stop it, if the train is already leaving the train station, very slowly, but we can still stop it. But the best way is really to create our own train and to create our own new timeline. And that can be done. An active thing. It's a proactive thing. Nobody's going to come and do the work for us. Nobody's going to come and rescue us. So we need to not look at that as a negative thing. We need to look at that as, it's a kick into action. So we need to get kicked into action, and each of us can do it in our own unique way. We don't need to be following any templates. I think if you go inside and listen to your heart and listen to your higher, source information, you'll know what your mission is here, what you're supposed to do. We all have a purpose here. We all have our own unique purpose. We're all like snowflakes, we're all individual, unique beings. And we're living together in this cosmic universe as individuals and yet collectively. So, we can tap into that collective resonance spirit, and that'll increase the probabilities of us manifesting it.
It isn't just to create a future that's okay. Why don't we create a future that's amazing? That's the first and most important thing. And then people say, but yeah, if I have my vision, why should I even worry about looking at this information? Why should I even worry about what's happening in the physical world here? I'm just going to do this all day, every day. Okay, good. If that's your intuition, go ahead. Why we are looking at this information is because we have been led into unknowingly supporting this by not understanding what we are supporting. And so oftentimes a project like the social credit system will have its infant phases with something that looks completely different, but you just go, oh, this is great. Oh, this new app is great. Oh, awesome. I'm going to be monitored here. And I could, all of this, the whole smart city building and the whole constant, this is exactly where it leads to the centralization of data and information and control. So if you don't understand this because you haven't looked at the information, you cannot discern. You cannot discern and cannot decide, this I want to support, this I don't want to support. And the third step in this is vision, and most important, discernment, knowledge that you apply, very important. The third part is conviction. You have to stand in what you believe in, and you have to stand in that truth 100%. Because here's the thing, the wind's going to come, the storm's going to come, and whether you can withstand it or not is only depending on your true, honest, authentic conviction inside. If you're really 100% certain this is what you stand for, this is who you are, then this wind will not harm you. As a matter of fact, it will go away sooner or later, because all these forces operate with fear and suppression, oppression. That's how they operate. When you're not in a fearful vibration, you cannot be controlled, especially if it's you, your family, and your community. Now there's so much power in this vision. This cannot be controlled. So this is an activation phase, discernment, vision, activation. It's really important. We are at a monumental phase in our human story, and we are writing the next chapter. If we don't write it, someone else will write it for us. That's the key here.